ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome into the 143. Coming at you live with episode 192.
Week 2 is officially over. Got some more overreactions for you just because it's still early on in the season. A lot of games left to be played, but there were plenty of good ones, plenty of controversial ones, and we're here to bring it all to you.
Absolutely. We here at Under Review are officially done with baseball season just because the Rangers have gotten our hopes up and then dashed them against the Rocks tonight against the Astros. So we are fully invested now in football season. Week 2 of the NFL, the games definitely weren't as good as week 1. But you know what? That's going to happen. They're not always going to be great. It was just fun to watch some football again. Start us off, Stat of the Week, brought to you by our sponsor, Andrews Logistics. Nick, I know I have used this stat before, but the stat just keeps going, so I'm going to use it again. In April of 2024, when the Bears drafted Caleb Williams first overall, they also drafted a punter, Tory Taylor. And Caleb texted Tory Taylor, you're not going to punt too much here, to let him know that they were going to be constantly scoring and not punting very much in Chicago. Since that text, Tory Taylor has punted 92 times, and he has the most punts in the NFL since then. So, Caleb Williams was wrong, and Caleb Williams has not been great, and the Bears have been punting an awful lot.
I mean, who would have seen that coming?
Sure.
Just interesting. Not only did he punt a lot, he is literally punting the most in the NFL.
The most.
It could not. He could not have been
bad teams.
He could not have been any more wrong. I mean, they're out punting the Panthers. Just think about
Raiders,
that.
like teams that are off, and they're out punting them. Crazy.
Your player of the week, Amon-Ra St. Brown, was a huge fantasy winner for a lot of people this week. 9 catches, 115 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
Have a week.
Led the Lions to a 52-21 win over the Bears. Good bounce back week for them. Yes, good bounce back week for them. Offense was going. Jared Goff was rolling. Yep. The first match between Dan Campbell and head coach Ben Johnson. Obviously, DC got the best of him, but that's to be expected just because of the weapons he's got around him. I did appreciate, though, in that at the end of that game, whenever Ben Johnson was getting interviewed and he was asked about, if he thought the Lions were running the score up, and he just answered him honestly and just said, that's what they're going to do there. They don't punt or they don't kick field goals or anything. They go for it on 4th down. What do you expect him to do there? So he's just taking that whooping like a man, not going to sit there and whine and complain about it. So you can appreciate, hearing that from a coach in that particular situation.
Absolutely. After getting kind of embarrassed by the Packers the week before, everybody was wondering, the Lions, their offensive coordinator left, their defensive coordinator left. Are they bad because of that? Well, I think they came out this week. They played a not great team in Chicago, but they showed out and they showed okay, we didn't go anywhere. We just had an off week. And obviously the Packers defense is really good. So, Jared Goff slings it, 5 touchdowns. Obviously Amon-Ra had 3 of those. The Lions look great. So I think, that shows that the Lions are not going anywhere, that they're still very much a contender. And I think, it says a lot about Chicago. I don't know. I feel like Ben Johnson just got there, so his seat's not hot. But Caleb Williams, people are starting to take a really close look. You can only make excuses for so long. We said it with Justin Fields when he was in Chicago. A lot of people are making excuses for Caleb. Well, it gets to a point where you're not winning games and your seat gets a little bit warm. You can paint your fingernails all you want, but you're not winning games, then you're eventually going to get cut or benched for agent.
Well, that's, they've got to assess the problem somewhere. They're not going to blame a coach that's coached for 2 games. They're looking at what have we had, what's not working. And I mean, you were supposed to be the guy that kind of revamps everything. Obviously, it's 2 games in the season, so we got to see how the Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams duo plays out for the rest of the season. But, there are going to be some eyes looking at you.
Chicago's got Dallas, got us next weekend, so I'm sure we'll make Caleb look great, just like we made Russ look great. But we'll talk about that in a sec. Packers, Commanders, Thursday Night Football. I don't know if maybe Jaden Daniels having a sophomore slump, but I think it might just be the Packers' defense is really good. And no, it's not because of Micah Parsons. It's because the Packers' defense is solid, and their offense looks great too. A lot of people are high on the Packers right now. They've won 2 games. They look great on all sides of the ball. I don't think it's an overreaction at all to say they might win, like they're top 2 teams to win their division, obviously, and they're favored right now. I think it's fair to say they should be favored. Packers look great all around. Commanders, I think it's like a Detroit situation where they just played the Packers defense and, kind of got out-coached.
Yeah, just kind of had a bad game there, and Jaden Daniels isn't quite looking like in his, full form that we were used to seeing from what we saw last year. Just struggling to get the ball out to his weapons. They haven't really been able to they weren't able to get the ground game going because they got 3 guys back there. Merritt, McNichols, and then Austin Eckler, who did suffer an Achilles injury. So
for the season.
He is unfortunately out. But, they've got Terry McLaurin, Debo, and then Zach Ertz still is a pretty solid weapon for them out there, even though he's like 40 years old or however old he is because he's been in the league forever. But
absolutely.
Obviously it's only week 2 of Jaden Daniels' sophomore season, so you can't quite say he's in a sophomore slump yet. But, the Packers defense did look significantly better than it has in years past. And Jordan Love obviously looks very, very comfortable in that quarterback position. Josh Jacobs firing on all cylinders, and then
they have a good O-line.
People have been saying that they still need kind of a true wide receiver one, just because the guys that they have are like wide receiver 2s and 3s. Just some small slot guys who run good routes and are quick and sure hands, but they don't have like a surefire, number 1 guy. But I mean, hey, if you're winning the games, you're winning the games. So
that's true.
Not a lot to complain about there.
No, definitely not. Bengals Jaguars, really not much to say about the game itself other than tough loss for the Bengals. Joe Burrow suffered a turf toe injury. It's going to need surgery. He is out for 3 months. That means Jake Browning came in, played a great game, threw 3 picks, but also won him the game as they beat the Jags 31-27. It says a lot about how bad the Jaguars are this year. But the Bengals get the win. They're 2-0 for like the first time in September under Coach Zach Taylor. But it's tough for them. They're missing their star quarterback again. Jake Browning has been in this spot before. He's shown he's capable of winning some games. I personally think the Bengals need to go out and get another quarterback. I've seen a lot about Jameis Winston going there and throwing for like 5,000 yards, and I support it. I think everybody wants to see Jameis Winston go out there and have T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Nick, I don't know how you feel about that.
Obviously, I don't think there's a single Jameis Winston hater out there. He's just such a good NFL personality. And then obviously the on-field play is very, very hit or miss, and it's more miss than it is hit. But he's just such a funny guy, always in for a good laugh. And then, like I said, there's nobody that doesn't like him. So anytime he gets on the field, I feel like everybody's watching him, wants him to succeed. Obviously, Bengals get the win, but looking at the bigger picture, you're losing your quarterback, Joe Burrow, to a season-ending, injury. Not quite season-ending, but it really
pretty
is season-ending for the Cincinnati Bengals because you're not going to have Burrow. Is this the second time in his NFL stint that he's had a big injury that unfortunately cost the Bengals the season? And, the last time that happened, they went to the Super Bowl the next year. So, obviously, eyes are looking to next year, 26 or whatever. But The Jaguars still looking pretty bad. Losing to Cincinnati,
Trevor
who does
Lawrence.
not have a good defense, and then obviously letting the backup QB come in, throw 3 picks, and then still lose the game.
Throw 2 touchdowns. Yeah. That's pretty embarrassing.
I mean, not a lot to say. We've made it very clear here that we're not high on Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville, that we don't think he's the answer. Obviously, they've got a lot of things to figure out, but losing to the Cincinnati Bengals in September, not really a good look, as they're kind of a known team that struggles, especially in the beginning of the regular season. Obviously, the big one, Cowboys-Giants.
Time to talk about it. Cowboys-Giants. We didn't know it was going to be the game of the week, but there it is. It was the game of the week.
I mean, I was prepared for us to go out and put, maybe not quite 40 points, but definitely
maybe 30.
At least 30.
25.
I was fully prepared for the offense to come out and kind of just be,
firing,
slinging it like they
Dak
were.
loves playing the Giants. He loves playing the Giants.
What I was not prepared for was the Giants to answer back every single blow and actually be leading a small portion of that game. And, Cowboys secondary making Russell Wilson look like his prime 2015 self.
Yeah.
Absolute career game for him. Obviously, he's not actually good. He was just playing the Cowboys, and our secondary was playing like some burnt toast out there. Every time a ball was thrown up in the air and it was more than 30 yards, you just close your eyes and you just, please, will somebody be there? And they were just, bombing it over our heads for
every time.
60 minutes. It was ridiculous.
Trayvon Diggs was getting embarrassed. I don't want to hear one word about paying that guy. I think, I do not think Trayvon Diggs is a good cornerback. You can, quote me on that as much as you want. He's a feast or famine cornerback, and lately it's been a lot of famine. Not much feasting out there for Trayvon Diggs.
He was good that one season like 3 or 4 years ago when he had however many pick sixes he had. But the problem even then that year was he was either getting a pick 6 or he was giving up 6. And lately it's been a lot of giving up 6.
And Malik Neighbors is a great wide receiver, and he had a career day as well. He's, like the one great player on the Giants right now. And he was absolutely loving Trayvon Diggs being on him. And so, it was ridiculous that with 30 seconds left in the game, Russell Wilson was able to throw a 48-yard touchdown pass to Malik Neighbors. This game says a lot about the Cowboys, says nothing about the Giants. But you got to give it to Brandon Aubrey kicking a 64-yard field goal to tie it, and then the overtime winner as time expired. Brandon Aubrey, he's been a dog for us ever since we signed him. He was a find out of nowhere. You're seeing a lot of teams with kicking issues. It's awesome to be a team that doesn't have kicking issues, that has a guy that can just go out and literally just get to the 50 and you know that you're good and he's going to make the field goal from there. I think, we got to give props to Dak. He's looked really good through these first 2 games of the season. We've dogged on Dak a lot on this show, rightfully so, because last season he looked horrendous.
Yeah, we do.
But this season he's come out, he's transformed his game. He's putting throws in these tight windows, and they're hitting the receiver's hands. They're not always catching it, but they're hitting the receiver's hands, which means they should be catching it. And props to him, man. He's looked really good through the first 2 games.
Also, was not expecting the run game. Obviously, it's only week 2, but Javonte Williams almost ran for 100 yards, and he had a touchdown, and those yards came on some clutch runs in overtime. So weren't really expecting the run game to be as powerful as it was, but with that facet of the game being there, that then opens it up more for Dak, because
absolutely.
What we've seen in years past is when the running game is good and it kind of takes the focus off Dak, then that's when he really shines and succeeds. But when it's we have to be throwing the ball or else, we're not going to be good offensively that day, that's when start to not look too good. I was extremely nervous, though, when we scored the go-ahead touchdown. towards the end of at the very end of the fourth quarter, and we left almost a minute left on of clock time. I was like,
they didn't even need all that.
They could get it all back in literally 2 plays, and that was almost what they did. But way to stick it out though.
Good team win.
Coming through in a big way. Obviously, not a good look to be struggling against the Giants, to be going in that shootout, but obviously all our eyes are looking at the defense. Offense went out and put up 40 points, so you can't really complain that much about them. But, man, that secondary looked horrible.
We signed Jadeveon Clowney either the day of or the day after the game. I think that was a good addition. We just need some help on the pass rush to, maybe
he's cheap.
Help the secondary out a lot. And also one note is I think someone I was talking to said it really well. You can't, like we saw last season, you can't really, once the offense is awful, you can't really improve it. Throughout the season, there's just no way. We're seeing it with the Rangers right now. There's just no way to fix an offense, but you can fix a defense a lot easier than you can fix an offense. So it's good to see that the offense is going, and kind of like the Bengals last season, they had a horrendous defense, but they always had a chance because they had a great offense. And, it's good to know that we have a really solid offense right now. I think that's something.
The good thing, though, obviously, Jadeveon Clowney's not going to be a game changer, but it's at least – we're assessing problems that we have and going out and seeing,
addressing it.
Can we meet those needs? Obviously, like I said, he's not going to be a game changer because there's a reason why he's sitting on his couch, when it was week 2 of the NFL season.
Yes.
Right? So he's not going to come in and be, a top 20 guy or whatever in the league. But, it's at least – it gives you confidence that we're seeing the on-field play and saying, all right, where can we go to fix it? But
Agreed.
That is a big name to have.
It is. Moving on to Seattle at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, it was a tight game till late when Pittsburgh just had a bunch of miscues. And Seattle ran away with the game. Seattle looks pretty good right now, offensively and defensively. You got to give them credit. I didn't think they were going to be that great this season. Obviously, they've only played 2 games. They are 1-1, but they've been competitive. They were competitive in the loss to San Francisco, and they looked good against Pittsburgh. Maybe it says a lot more about Pittsburgh's defense, which has looked really bad these last 2 weeks. But, Sam Darnold, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, Cooper Kupp, they looked really good this week. And obviously Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers have a lot of things that they need to fix going into next week.
Yep, obviously JSN looking like a dog once again this week. And then you like seeing a guy like Sam Darnold succeed just because it's cool to watch him, because I think I kind of forget that he's not super duper old. He's not. Like he's, right at that prime age. But, he played in New York, he played in Carolina. So, you want to see guys that kind of get thrown into those situations, go somewhere else and succeed, and then had an absolute career year with Minnesota last year. And they unfortunately things don't work out there. So he's down there in Seattle.
I should have re-signed him.
He's slinging it. Yeah, they went out and got Cooper Kupp, and then no more DK Metcalf, no more Lockett, and JSN these past 2 weeks has really stepped up into that wide receiver 1 role. Seahawks defense is looking pretty nasty. And unfortunately for Pittsburgh, their huge thing that they've had over the last couple seasons is defense. And we unfortunately have not seen very many good things from the defense. Even in that win they got last week against the Jets, you still let the Jets
there was no defense.
Run all over you, pass all over you, do that whole ordeal. Biggest controversial game of the week was probably Broncos-Colts. The Colts win that game 28-29.
It was a good game.
Obviously, controversy comes in because the Colts win via a game-winning field goal.
which they missed originally.
28-26, and yes, initially
they had a 60-yard field goal initially,
and it kick is up wide right and doesn't even have the distance. And then there's a flag. They call one of the Denver Broncos defensive linemen for the penalty that they called it was leverage, saying that he was pushing on the center and trying to use him as leverage to go and block the kick. Obviously, big no-no on field goals.
15-yard penalty.
You cannot touch the center. Whatever you do, you cannot touch the center. You turned a 60-yarder into essentially, with how big these kickers' legs are, a 45-yarder is essentially a chip shot.
Yeah, it's pretty automatic.
He goes back to it, drills it right down the middle. That's the game. Obviously, everyone's up in arms, but
I didn't even see leverage. I didn't see the push off the center. They showed the replay, and a lot of people. I agree with the fact that that's a ridiculous. It's only been called 51 times in the history of the NFL. That call, they don't really call that very often. I'm not one to do the conspiracy theories and stuff, but I wouldn't be surprised if Vegas made a call and got the refs to call leverage there, because I didn't see it, and I don't know how they thought they saw it.
Because that's the other thing, is that is literally a game-changing flag. You keep that flag in your pocket.
45-yarder.
Denver wins that game 28-26. They throw it, obviously, the 15-yard penalty. So you're making this kick, 15 times easier for this kicker, and he drills it 29-28. But obviously, leading up to that, Daniel Jones looking good. Tyler Warren has another great week. Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, Jonathan Taylor. Everybody's looking pretty solid, and the Daniel Jones revenge tour, it's in full effect.
Broncos look good too. Bo Nix looks good. They've got a lot of season left. Young quarterback, but yeah, good to see Daniel Jones is succeeding in another uniform. Very controversial game. What people were calling the game of the week, Eagles-Chiefs, turned into kind of just a boring game, which, shocker, an Eagles game was boring. But Eagles get the win, 20-17. Chiefs essentially gave it away when Travis Kelce muffed a touchdown pass, and it turned into an interception.
It was literally in his hands, and he just tosses it.
I don't know what happened there.
Straight to Eagles player.
You can't be the greatest tight end of all time if you're not going to catch that, because it was kind of an easy catch. I could have caught it. But, a lot of controversy in this game, because this game really brought out some problems with the tush push. Everybody's false starting. Well, number one, they're not lining up correctly. They're in front of the ball when they line up. Number two, the whole offensive line's false starting before it's snapped, so they have an unfair advantage there. This is on the NFL owners for not banning this play in the owners' meetings this past offseason. But the real thing is Jalen Hurts had 101 passing yards, and they won the game. If you make Jalen Hurts throw the ball, you're going to beat the Eagles. And, like the Cowboys, if CD doesn't drop those balls, we win the game because we started making Hurts have to throw. That's what you have to do, essentially. And
man, now that you say that, that's just making me think. That's the second week in a row where Eagles win a game, and you're thinking, if so-and-so catches this ball, who knows? Obviously, last week was CeeDee Lamb. Yep. This week is Travis Kelce. Biggest thing with the tush push is when you're getting that side view camera angle and you're staring down the line of scrimmage, okay? Ignore the black line, because that's on the TV. It's not always right. But you see where the ball is. You have left guard, left tackle, right tackle. All of their heads are in line with the ball, which is the neutral zone, which you cannot line up in. The center's head is leaned forward.
Over the ball.
Is over the ball as well. And then on top of that, in slow-mo, you can see where center, left tackle, left guard, right guard, all move before the ball is snapped. And so it's like not necessarily
It's illegal.
saying that you have to ban the tush push, but you have to
It has to be done
officiate
right.
it properly.
Yes,
Okay?
it's a play just like any other play.
Throw a flag. If they're false starting, throw a flag. The problem is none of these referees want to be the first one to do it because realistically, with the way they line up, you could throw a flag every single time, but none of these guys want to sit there and be the first one to throw a flag on the tush push.
I agree, but also maybe just don't let them get close enough to tush push it. That's another thing, teams could do, but we move on. Falcons, Vikings, there's not much to say here other than,
Slop fest.
JJ McCarthy doesn't look good. I don't know. He's only played 2 games. Could be an overreaction, whatever. JJ McCarthy looks awful. Now, Monday after the game, he has an ankle injury, and he's out for like a couple weeks. That's interesting, to say the least. They don't normally announce those injuries very early, and he looked fine during the game and after the game. So, Vikings are in trouble, and this is on them for not re-signing Sam Darnold. I don't know why they didn't.
I mean, they were in, I guess what you call win now mode, where you've got Justin Jefferson, who's in his prime, and with how good he is and the way he's played, you don't really need anybody else. You don't need a solid wide receiver too, because when you have Justin Jefferson on the other side, it doesn't really matter. They had T.J. Hawkinson, who's a solid tight end, but obviously, like we said at the beginning of the season, your question mark is at the quarterback position, and they had a guy who people were trying to put in the MVP conversation last year. Not saying Sam Darnold would be the same guy this year, but he's looked pretty good this past game and the game before. And with JJ McCarthy, obviously he looked awful. And yes, they won in week 1, but he was horrible for 3 quarters. And there's not much more to be said about that. Yeah.
Yep. Bucks Texans. I think, the only thing really needed to say about that game is, I think people need to start taking the Buccaneers seriously. Baker Mayfield is a dog, and, the Bucs look good. He led a game-winning drive, scored a touchdown with, 6 seconds left. I think there's a lot to be said about how good this Buccaneers team looks. And, a lot of people are thinking they're sneaky contenders for a Super Bowl this year. I'd have to agree, man. They've got a lot of grit, and they play with a chip on their shoulder. So the Buccaneers looked really good. Texans, they look okay. They're in an interesting division, so they'll probably be contending for it at the end of the day anyways, just because the division's not very good. But Bucs look great.
Baker Mayfield, that's another guy that, easier to root for. Really made himself a home here in Tampa Bay, and they've really solidified themselves as, I think playoff contenders the last year or so. Offense looking really, really good. Obviously, Baker Mayfield, like I said, just having the time of his life down there, leading the pack. When you're leading game-winning drives, that just says a lot about, his attitude and how he carries himself. But, Tampa Bay could be sneaky towards the end of the season. Obviously, it's only week 2, but, you never know. And then the second Monday night game, Chargers-Raiders.
Raiders look bad. Chargers look good. Justin Herbert looks good. Chargers defense suffocates offenses like they've done the last couple weeks. And, Raiders look bad. Shocked. Nobody thought they were going to be good. And, the Chargers look like I don't think it's crazy to say the Chargers win the division this year with how bad the Chiefs have looked.
They look significantly better. Obviously, it's been the Chiefs division for the last 8 years or whatever the actual number is. But, the Broncos just don't look they're just too, I guess, young is what I would say. Bo Nix. But they could come back and cause some damage later. But the Chargers look significantly better. Justin Herbert has looked significantly better. People have been very critical of him. We've been very critical of him on here. And it looks like he's kind of taken that next step and played that next tier level of football. Always knew the arm talent and the, just ability was there, but he just needed to overcome that, obstacle. They've got Coach Harbaugh down there, and people are putting a lot of faith in him. Didn't expect a whole lot from him last season, but you were just hoping that it was going to be building blocks to, lead this team to success in the future, and that could be this year. You never know.
Yep.
But anyways, here's like in our show and under review, brought to you a quote from the Baker Mayfield. It doesn't matter what cards you're dealt, it's what you do with those cards. Never complain, just keep pushing forward. Find a positive in anything and just fight for it.
Ain't that the truth? Thanks for tuning in this week. We'll see you next week with another episode of